my topic, or what I want us to discuss about, is rules for healthy living. I mean, definitely when it comes to health, wellness, there's always things that we can do or things we can integrate into our life that cuts across whatever aspects or whatever your goal is when it comes to health. I mean, healthy living is just a way you want to live in such a way that it supports your overall well-being. And then at least you can prolong your life if that's an interest for you, or just make you more healthy and more functional for your children, for your family, for your loved ones. So it's all dependent on that. And I have a few things I want to touch on in terms of the rules for healthy living. So the first one is food. I know food is one thing that anytime you talk about health, it comes into play. So they say, eat your food as medicine. So you should always know that food is medicine. And if you make food your medicine, you are always going to eat in such a way that it supports the functionality of your life. So someone will say then, what will I classify as a good food or a healthy food? A healthy food does three things. It feeds your gut, which is your stomach or your gut line, your intestine. It feeds your gut. It protects your liver. So the food is supposed to feed your gut and then protect your liver. And then the third thing is that it supports your brain. If the food you eat doesn't do any of these three things, then we can't term that food as a healthy food or a food that supports your health. Because if food is supposed to support your health, it has to take into account at least these three things, which is supporting your gut, protecting your liver so that you don't get things like fatty liver and all those issues when it comes to your liver health. And then the third thing is that it supports or enhances your brain, the functionality of your brain. So that is what we will classify as a healthy food if it's able to do any of these three things. So I want to touch on the first one, which is a macronutrient. So macronutrients are nutrients that you need in high quantities. So protein as a macronutrient. So it's important that if you want to stay healthy, protein should be a focus for anybody who is looking to be healthy. The thing is, when you are much younger, or for kids, they can do away with less amount of protein and they will still benefit from it. Even if they eat a little amount of protein, they will still be able to experience good protein synthesis and build enough muscle to function. But the moment you start to age, protein is very important because you need a lot of it to preserve muscle, to enhance metabolic processes, to get you functional. You need protein because it enhances a lot of things and it's very good. The more amount of muscle you have, the better your quality of life you're going to experience. And muscle plays a key role. If you ever watch any of my content, you know that I'm all about building good amount of muscle and functionality in your life. So it's important to make protein very integral when it comes to your food. Now, the next one I want to talk about with food is vegetables. Vegetables is very important because we are looking, anytime we talk about vegetables, we are talking about fiber. That's one. And two, I also want us to touch on micronutrients in this case. There's a lot of flavonoids, vitamins, minerals that you get out of greens, vegetables. It's very important. So my advice to everybody is that you have to introduce a lot of vegetables because you get a lot of benefits in there. So add a lot of cruciferous vegetables to your lifestyle, to your diet, to the foods that you eat. So this is my take when it comes to food in my topic, healthy rules for healthy living. The next one will be exercise. So I want to touch on two phases when it comes to that. So exercise, we talk about resistance training, and then the next part is we'll talk about walking. So when it comes to resistance training, the goal with resistance training is to build muscle, is to preserve muscle, not to lose muscle, but to train, resistance training to lift weight. Your goal is to build enough muscle mass on your frame. That's one. and two, to preserve the little muscles that you already have. I mean, for some people, they might say, okay, my goal is not to build muscle. If it's not to build muscle, I mean, building muscle goes through a lot of processes, but at least if you resistance train, you are going to preserve the minimum amount of muscle you already have on your frame, and then also you can help to do more. And also for functionality sake, because the term goes, what you don't use, you lose. If you don't use your muscles, if you don't use your joints, if you don't use them, you're going to lose them. So it's important to resistance training, because as you lift weights and you keep them in motion, you are lubricating your joints. Apart from just on the muscle end, you are lubricating your joints, you are moving them in motion, you are doing so many stuff. So it's important to make sure that you resistance train, because if you resistance train, it's going to help stimulate your muscles, stimulate your joints, and improve your functionality and your mobility at the end of the day. The next one I want to talk about when it comes to exercise is walking. Walking is very, very important, because walking is one easy way for those who are obese, those who are fat, to lose their fat, to lose those stubborn fats. It's one easy way to lose fat. I mean, if you're obese and you want to cut down on your weight, walking is one easy way to do that. Now, the other thing is, as you walk, you enhance your motion, you gain more ability, you work on your glutes, which is your thigh, which is one of the largest muscle group in your body. You work them, and as you work them, it helps for your functionality, your day-to-day movement. Walking is very good. The more walking you can do, the better your posture, your ability to move and interact improves, and even enhances your social connections. You can actually meet people, you can talk and interact. But the moment you're always sitting in your car or being sedentary and sitting at one place, you don't move, you don't talk to anybody, you barely connect. But walking actually helps you to connect with people, and you're able to do a lot of things from there. So it's important to walk to improve, because as you walk, as you move, you even help stimulate better your abdominal regions, and then with your spine, because if you sit too long, you put a lot of pressure on your spine. So sometimes it's good to even stand and move a bit. So it's very important. The third one I want to talk about is light. So light, I'll look at it from two angles: sunlight and then your phone. Sunlight is very good, and it's something that everybody has to experience when they wake up in the morning, because sunlight helps you to make a lot of vitamin D. Apart from making vitamin D, it will also help you to set your circadian rhythm up, your sleep and rest hormone, serotonin, which definitely is a precursor to melatonin, which actually helps to improve your sleep at night. So it's very important to experience the sun to make a lot of vitamin D, because vitamin D helps with a lot of chemical processes that go on in your body. Because underlying a lot of chemical processes, vitamin D is at the root base of it. So it's very, very important to experience the sun. And for people who are dark skinned, you need to stay in the sun longer to get the benefit of making a lot of vitamin D. So if you are a black person or you're a dark person, you need to stay longer in the sun, because your skin protects you from the sun rays. So you need to stay longer to get the benefit. So I mean, waking up in the morning and experiencing the sun is going to really help you. So it's important to get out there and stay in the sun. But for people who are light skinned or fair colored people, or people who don't have melanin underneath their skin, I mean, a little minute as 30 minutes will do them a lot of good. They are going to make a lot of vitamin D from there. So it's dependent. And then if you stay in places where the sun doesn't come out often, then it's very good to supplement with vitamin D. So you need to supplement with it, and it's very important you do so, because vitamin D is very, very important. Now, phone light, I bring it in there because blue light has a lot of impact on your eyes. It can distort your sleep cycle. It can distort your circadian rhythm, and even prevent you from sleeping at night. So it's important to make sure that you protect yourself from the blue light that comes from your phone, your laptop, any smart device that you use. You need to be careful about the light that it emits, because those blue lights actually has a lot of effect on your eyes. So it's very important to get blue light sun blockers, like glasses that can block those lights from entering directly into your eyes. Or even at night, you can dimmer your lights so that you can actually help improve your sleep. Now, the fourth one I want to talk about is that when we are talking about sleep, then we are talking about even setting a timer for your sleep. Sleep is very important. You can't even take sleep for granted. you need to make sure that sleep is always set as a priority for you. Because if you don't rest, if you don't sleep, it's going to actually harm you. People who undergo a lot of sleep deprivation for a long time will suffer from a lot of brain damages, suffer from a lot of metabolic illnesses. You can't even train well, you can't even work out well, and your performance in the gym will reduce because you don't have good night rest or good night sleep. So it's even been shown in different studies that sleep deprivation has a lot of side effects. Your cognitive performance even reduces because you don't sleep. Sleep is very important. It's important. Nature deemed it that at some point we need to stop everything and go into a deep state of sleep and rest so that we can recover and then go by our activity the next day. So it's very important that we don't sleep deprive ourselves. We sleep at night and get enough sleep. The next thing I want to touch on is alcohol. And I want to talk about sleep and alcohol here. For most people, if they're ever going through something in life, some challenges, they think, okay, if I drink alcohol, I'll sleep. Or even for people who suffer to sleep, they think if they drink alcohol, you will sleep. It's true to some extent. When you start drinking, you notice that you sleep. But after a while of drinking, the sleep now starts to go away. You don't get the benefit of the sleep anymore. You don't go into deep sleep even when you continue to drink, because afterwards now it destroys your sleep. You might drink, you might get drunk, you might lay down, you might feel like you slept, but after a while you just wake up. And when you wake up, it means that your sleep is gone and you can't sleep anymore. So alcohol actually destroys sleep. So my advice to anybody is that don't ever abuse alcohol with the intention that it will give you sleep. Sleep and alcohol is not in your best interest at all. Sleep and alcohol, they don't go together. The more alcohol you take, the more you take alcohol, the more you're going to be sleep deprived. So my advice is that if you ever have any problems, social problems, try to speak to somebody, try to communicate it with somebody and find definitive solutions to the problem rather than drinking as a means to numb or run away from your problem. So back to the alcohol. Alcohol is not good. Alcohol has a lot of problems. For most people, even drinking alcohol is going to let them build a lot of fat. You're going to gain a lot of fat from just drinking alcohol because alcohol contains a lot of calories. For some people, they might argue that, oh, alcohol is nothing, but alcohol contains a lot of calories. It's been found out. So you are actually consuming calories when you are not using them for any beneficial thing. So it's important to stay away from alcohol altogether. So if you think, okay, maybe I like to consume alcohol or I enjoy alcohol, so I can't do away with it, 2 drinks per week will help you. So it's important to avoid consuming alcohol altogether. Or if you can't, at least 2 drinks per week will help you. And those who drink alcohol always make bad decisions. People get drunk and then get people pregnant and realize that this was not even the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, or get involved with some sort of issue, because alcohol distorts your brain, and too much alcohol consumption will damage your brain cells. It damages brain cells. It has an impact on your gut. It has so many effects. You don't want that. For some people, they might even develop insulin resistance from just drinking too much alcohol. So it's important to avoid drinking alcohol altogether. And then the 6th one is emotional health. And that brings me back to what I was talking about. Emotional health is very important, and I tie that with alcohol because for some people, alcohol is an addiction, and they try to use that as a means to numb their problems they are going through, emotional problems they are going through, or something that they are going through. So it's important to always connect, interact, build social connections, and then talk about your problems if you have them. A lot of men go through rough times in their life, and instead of finding like a brotherhood circle or talk to somebody they trust, they never do that, and rather they engage in addictive behaviors. It might not be just alcohol, it might even be smoking, doing drugs and all that. It has an impact on you. So emotional health is very important, and us here in Africa, we barely have any advice of even engaging in therapy or speaking with people whenever we have tough challenges, especially for men. And it's important to always seek and speak to people when it comes to we having challenges in our lives and our social problems. We need to speak with people about our problems, because when you engage people you trust and you speak to them about whatever social problems you are going through, it will actually help you find concrete structured solutions to those problems rather than going into, or engaging in some sort of addiction behaviors, because those addiction behaviors are going to actually diminish your health. And whatever problems you think you are trying to numb yourself from, that problem still exists. It still stays there. It never leaves. It's still with you. So it's important to always have social connections, and let's engage and connect and talk to people. I mean, let's spend time with our family. And underneath all these things, these connections and interaction, is where purpose really resides. And when you have a true purpose of what things you want to do and people who are looking up to you and things you want to do for others, it gives you a will and a reason to still live. And as you have a will and a reason to still live, you are going to live a healthy life, and you are going to do things that support your overall healthy living and healthy life that you want to have. The last one I want to touch on is something that we barely hear people talking about, which is automotive accidents. So when I talk about automotive accidents, we are looking at maybe car accidents. So it's either you engaging in an accident where your life is cut short, probably through that you die, or your quality of life is diminished because you probably suffered an injury where a part of your human body had to be cut off, and then now you become amputated in one part of your body because you had an accident. It's important that anytime you are driving, you practice something we call staying present. When you're driving, you don't need to distract yourself. And I know as a public health advocacy that everybody doesn't make a phone call whilst driving, or texting whilst driving, or I mean, any means of using your smart device whilst driving. I know it's been a while this topic is actually addressed. Nobody had really talked about it because we expect everybody to know, but this is something we see people do every time. I mean, you drive sometimes and then you see people texting. Even myself, I'm a corporate. I don't want to say that I am not. We all do that. Once in a while, you're driving and then you think about something that you want to do, and then you try to call the person or you try to text the person. We all do that. And as you do that, you lose focus. And by the time you lose focus, anything can happen within that time frame because you are driving, you're on the road, you're not alone. There are others who are also driving, and definitely it can result in some sort of accident. And it's also important to avoid using the phone, or if we are driving, we also make sure that we are focused on the sun direction so that you can use those shield blockers to block yourself. Because if you can't see clearly because probably the sun is setting down and then the rays are hitting you, or the sun is really out, has rised and is so out, you can't really see. You need to make use of those windshield blockers to block yourself from the rays so that you can see well. And also reckless driving. There are some people who are just reckless. I mean, overspeeding at some places where you don't need to overspeed, or trying to cross where you don't need to cross. Even there are times we just cross people, we just enter the road. We don't really check if there's another car coming or something. And we don't give way to traffic. When I talk about giving way to traffic, it just means that we always make sure that those who are already in the middle of the road should always have priority when they are driving. We always have to make sure that we give way to traffic. These are things that we learned when you are taking the driving lessons to get your license. But after you learn and then you start driving, and it becomes like a rule of your own. You decide to do what you want to do. And for sometimes, yeah, you might have a genuine reason to want to cross or swerve and not give way to traffic because maybe you're in a hurry, there's an emergency. But you need to think that even regardless of the emergencies you're having, you need to set priorities for your health, and you have to also check for your safety. That's why it's important to always put on your seatbelt, avoid using the phone whilst driving, and even calling people. Even when you're behind a motorbike or you're in a motorbike, you need to wear a helmet, because safety is important, and always staying present on the road is going to save you. Because the moment you are engaged in an accident, the quality of your life has diminished. Whether you put on some prosthetic arm or prosthetic leg, it never changes anything. Sometimes, even if you're not fortunate, the surgery you undergo might not really create any necessary correction. And sometimes for some people, they will even be bedridden. And through that, some people actually lose their life. For some people, they internally bleed and then they die. It can be so many factors. So it's important that in as much as you are trying to have healthy living when it comes to food, exercise, light, sleep, and all that, if you become reckless whilst you are driving or in a car or behind something, like in terms of automotive movement, that can also end your life. So it might not be a disease that is killing you, but physical impact of an accident can also definitely take you out of this life earlier than you probably expected. So my advice to everybody is that let's keep all these rules in our mind. Let's make them an important aspect of our life and make sure that we practice them as possible. We might never be perfect with them. Nobody says you should be perfect, but as much as possible, you need to keep them in mind. And one thing I also want to touch on is that we need to always be meditative. I mean, there will be times when you have some challenges that you are going on, staying present, being meditative about it. I mean, even paying attention on your breath can actually help ease you up in times of like difficulties and challenges. When you are struggling with something, just staying present, calming down, taking a breath. I mean, there are times when you're even driving and somebody crosses you, get so angry and furious, and like you want to get back at them or you want to do something. Just staying present and then focusing on the now, just focusing on your breath, taking a deep breath and calming down will actually prevent you from doing all these things. Because if you try to get back at somebody, a lot of things can happen. It's either you lose your life, you can crash into that person's car, or anything can happen. And when they happen, now it means that there's going to be time wasted and there's also going to be financial loss to you, which means that now you have to spend money fixing somebody's car or something. Even if insurance is going to cover it, know that time is wasted and you don't want that happening. So my advice to everybody is that let's all try as much as possible to stay present. Take deep breaths, meditate, I mean, pray, do what we have to do, but we also have to make sure that we have a more intentional life where you are intentional about the things you do in terms of your food you eat, the exercise you have, your sunlight exposure, your sleep, the alcohol consumption rates that you have, the social emotional connections you have with people, and then you focus when it comes to when you're moving out and you're driving out there. So this is my advice for everybody, and these are my rules for healthy living that I have. So if you have any questions, you have anything that you want to ask or something that you don't understand, you can drop your questions and I'm going to answer them for you. So thank you very much.